Hi! Before starting, put the auto-generated YouTube subtitles in French or your mother tongue to get everything. And slow down or speed up the pace as needed. If you don't have time to watch it, just listen this video as a podcast while doing something else. Now meet Sarah, a young and ambitious professional working in a busy city office. She's known for her dedication and hard work, always ready to tackle any task with a smile. Today seems like just another day at the office. Or is it? The morning started like any other. Sarah arrived early, coffee in hand, ready to tackle her to-do list. She had an important presentation to deliver in the afternoon, one that could impress her boss and potentially lead to a promotion. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. She had prepared diligently and knew her material inside out. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As Sarah reached for the file containing her presentation, her heart skipped a beat. It wasn't there. Panic started to set in. She rummaged through her drawers, her desk, and even the floor around her, but the file was nowhere to be found. Time was running out, and the missing file threatened to derail all her hard work. Sarah's mind raced. She had checked this drawer a dozen times already, but the file was definitely not there. She whispered the file name to herself as if it would magically appear out of thin air. Strategic Plan, Q2. Update, she muttered, her voice laced with increasing concern. The clock seemed to be mocking her, each tick a reminder of the fast-approaching deadline. Her confidence from just moments ago was quickly evaporating, replaced by a knot of anxiety in her stomach. The frantic search begins, a race against time. Sarah could no longer afford to sit still. She jumped from her chair, her heart pounding in her chest. She began a frantic search of her workspace, her movements becoming increasingly desperate. She checked under her keyboard, behind her monitor, and even inside her empty coffee mug, as if the file could have somehow shrunk itself and hidden there. Her colleagues, busy with their own tasks, didn't seem to notice her growing panic. The office, usually a hive of activity and conversation, suddenly felt strangely isolated. Doubts and desperation, a cloud of worry. Sarah stopped for a moment, trying to regain her composure. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, willing herself to think clearly. Where could that file be? She had worked on it late last night, making sure everything was perfect for the presentation. She distinctly remembered saving it. Doubt crept in. Had she accidentally misplaced it? Or worse, could someone have taken it? The thought sent a wave of panic through her. Retracing her steps. A glimmer of hope? Sarah decided to retrace her steps from the previous night. She vividly remembered printing a copy of the presentation before heading home. Maybe, just maybe, she had left the file near the printer. A surge of hope coursed through her as she scanned the area around the machine, but her hopes were quickly dashed. The printer tray was empty, and there was no sign of her missing file. Seeking help, breaking the silence. Sarah let out a sigh of defeat. She had searched everywhere she could think of, but the file was still missing. Her eyes darted around the office, finally landing on her colleagues. She knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed help, and she needed it now. Taking a deep breath, she approached the nearest desk, ready to ask for assistance. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of her office adventure. A plea for help, reaching out to Ben. Sarah walked over to Ben's desk. Ben was her friendly colleague, always willing to lend a hand.
Hi Ben, I have a bit of a problem. I can't find my presentation file. Have you seen it?
Ben looked up from his computer, his brow furrowed in thought. The presentation file? No, I haven't seen it. Where did you last have it? Ben's reassurance a moment of calm. Sarah explained that she had been working on the file late last night and couldn't remember where she put it afterwards.
I've checked everywhere on my desk and in my drawers.
Her voice rising slightly with panic. Ben listened patiently, his calm demeanor having a slightly soothing effect on Sarah's frayed nerves. Don't worry, Sarah, we'll find it. It's got to be here somewhere. He gestured for her to take a seat. Why don't you sit here for a minute and try to think back to your last steps? I'll look around my area just in case. Expanding the search the office network. Sarah nodded gratefully and sank into the chair. She closed her eyes, trying to recall any detail that might lead her to the missing file. Meanwhile, Ben had sprung into action. He discreetly sent out a message to their team's group chat, alerting them to the situation and asking if anyone had seen Sarah's file. The office, once oblivious to Sarah's plight, was now silently mobilizing to help find the missing presentation. A trail of clues, the shared printer mystery. Emily, another colleague, approached Ben's desk, a slight frown on her face.
Hey, I heard about Sarah's file. Did she print anything recently? I think I saw a file left on the printer earlier.
Sarah's head shot up, a surge of hope rushing through her.
The printer? Yes, I did print a copy last night,
she exclaimed, jumping to her feet. The three of them quickly made their way to the shared printer, their steps filled with anticipation. Could this be the break they needed? The plot thickens. A case of mistaken identity? But as they reached the printer, their hopes were dashed once again. The output tray was empty. There was no sign of any forgotten printouts.
That's strange. I could have sworn I saw a file here earlier. It had a bright pink sticky note on it.
Sarah gasped.
A pink sticky note? Oh no, that wasn't my file. It must have been the report I was reviewing for marketing. I left it there for them to pick up.
The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. If the file Emily saw wasn't Sarah's, then where could it be? The search for the missing presentation had just taken an unexpected turn. Sarah, Ben, and Emily huddled in the break room, the aroma of stale coffee filling the air. The weight of the missing file hung heavy in the silence. I don't understand, Sarah said, her voice laced with frustration. I was so careful with that file. I know I put it away at the end of the day. Ben took a sugary sip of his coffee, trying to ignite a spark of inspiration. Did you take it home by accident? He asked, hopeful. Sarah shook her head. I checked my bag in my apartment. It's not there. It has to be here somewhere. Emily, who had been scrolling through her phone, suddenly looked up. Wait a minute, she said, her eyes widening. Don't we have security cameras in the office? Sarah and Ben stared at her, their faces a mixture of surprise and hope. You're right, Sarah exclaimed. Why didn't we think of that before? Emily quickly typed a message on her phone. I'm texting Mark from IT, she said. He'll know if we can access the footage from last night. Minutes later, Mark from IT arrived, a slightly bemused expression on his face. He led them down a long, narrow hallway to the security room. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of dozens of security monitors showing different angles of the office. Rows of blinking lights and the hum of electronics filled the air. Mark adjusted the controls, bringing up the footage from the previous night. Okay, he said, let's see if we can spot our elusive file. Fast-forwarding through time, a glimmer of hope. They watched as hours of footage flew by in fast-forward, the office transforming from a bustling workspace to an empty husk and back again. Finally, they reached the timestamp when Sarah left her desk the previous night. They watched intently as she gathered her things, but the angle made it impossible to see if she had the file with her. Mark zoomed in on the footage, trying to get a clearer view. "I know it's a long shot," he said, "but maybe we'll get lucky." Dead end. The mystery deepens. But as Sarah disappeared from the camera's view, the file was still nowhere to be seen. They watched for a few more minutes, hoping for a clue, but to no avail. Sarah's heart sank. The security footage had been a dead end. The file had vanished without a trace. They left the security room, the weight of the missing file heavier than ever. With time running out, Sarah knew she had to face a difficult truth. She might have to face her important presentation without her most crucial piece of evidence. The weight of worry. Sarah's anxiety mounts. The office seemed to close in around Sarah. Everywhere she looked, she saw reminders of the missing file and the looming presentation. She could feel the pressure building, a knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. Her usually organized mind raced with worry, unable to focus on anything but the impossible situation. The sounds of keyboards clicking and phones ringing, usually a comforting background hum, now seemed to amplify her sense of isolation. Everyone else seemed so calm, so in control. What was she going to do? This presentation was important, not just for her career, but for the entire team's hard work. She couldn't let them down. A moment of solitude, seeking solace in the stairwell. Suddenly, the confines of her workspace felt unbearable. She needed air, space, a moment to breathe. Without a word to Ben or Emily, she rose from her chair and made a beeline for the stairwell door. The familiar exit sign above the door seemed to beckon her towards a moment of solitude. The stairwell was empty, the only sound the faint hum of the building's ventilation system. She leaned against the cool concrete wall, closing her eyes and willing herself to calm down. But even in the quiet solitude, the ticking clock was a constant reminder of the impossible situation. Time was running out, and she was no closer to finding the missing file. The ticking clock. A race against time. Sarah glanced at her watch again, her stomach dropping. The seconds seemed to slip away faster than she could count them, each tick of the clock echoing her growing anxiety. The meeting was scheduled to start in less than an hour, and she was no closer to finding the file than she had been that morning. The office buzzed with activity, but all she could focus on was the looming deadline. She paced back and forth in the confined space, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Every possible scenario played out in her head, each one more disastrous than the last. Had she trashed it accidentally? She rifled through the wastebasket, hoping against hope that it had somehow ended up there. Left it in a cab? The thought gnawed at her, the memory of her rushed morning commute flashing through her mind. Was it possible she had never even brought it to the office in the first place? She emptied her briefcase onto the desk, papers scattering everywhere. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and she gripped the railing for support. The room seemed to spin, her thoughts a chaotic mess. The stress was starting to take its toll, both physically and emotionally. Her head throbbed, and her heart raced as if it were trying to keep up with the ticking clock. She felt completely and utterly defeated. The weight of the situation pressed down on her, making it hard to breathe. But as quickly as the despair had come, it was replaced by a steely resolve. She couldn't let this setback define her. She couldn't give up. Not now. Taking a deep breath, she centered herself, pushing the panic aside. She had worked too hard for this opportunity, and she wouldn't let a missing file derail everything. With renewed determination, she began to systematically search her office, leaving no stone unturned. She opened every drawer, checked every cabinet, and even looked behind the furniture. Each place she searched brought a mix of hope and frustration. Desperation led her to ask her colleagues if they had seen the file. She described it in detail, hoping someone might have picked it up by mistake, but each inquiry was met with a shake of the head and an apologetic look. No one had seen it. Refusing to be defeated, Sarah turned to her computer. Maybe she had a digital copy saved somewhere. She began to search through her files, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Folder after folder, she scoured her digital archives. The clock continued to tick, but she was focused, her mind sharp and clear. Finally, she found it. Relief washed over her as she opened the file, ensuring it was the correct one. She quickly printed the necessary documents, her hands shaking slightly as she gathered them from the printer. With the file in hand, she walked towards the meeting room, her steps confident and her head held high. She had faced the challenge and emerged victorious. Just as she entered the room, the clock struck the meeting time. She had made it, just in the nick of time. A smile spread across her face as she took her seat. The race against time was over, and she had won. Facing the inevitable, accepting defeat, Sarah returned to her desk, her face pale but her chin held high. Ben and Emily looked up as she approached, their faces a mixture of concern and relief.
Any luck?
Ben asked gently, his voice hushed so as not to draw attention from the surrounding colleagues. Sarah shook her head, unable to voice the disappointment that clung to her like a heavy coat.
It's gone. I've searched everywhere, checked everything. It's just gone.
A heavy silence descended upon them. The reality of the situation settled in like a cold draft, chilling them to the bone. The presentation was just minutes away, and there was nothing left to do but face the music. Just as Sarah was about to resign herself to the impossible task of delivering her presentation without her notes, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her brow furrowing. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" she answered tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. A voice on the other end of the line spoke, and Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. She sat up straight, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. Could this be it? Could this unexpected phone call be the answer to their prayers, the miracle they had been hoping for? Sarah's heart raced as she listened to the voice on the other end of the line. It was a woman's voice, warm and friendly, but definitely not someone she recognized. "Hello, is this Sarah?" the voice asked. "I'm calling from the building management office. We have something that belongs to you." Sarah was confused. She couldn't recall losing anything else today, besides the all-important presentation file.
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I understand. What do you have?
The voice on the other end chuckled softly. "Well, it seems one of our cleaning crew members found a file folder with your name on it last night. It was left in a rather unusual spot." Sarah's breath hitched in her throat.
An unusual spot? She repeated, her mind racing. Where did they find it?
"Well," the voice said with a hint of amusement, "it seems you left it on top of the vending machine in the break room. Perhaps you were reaching for a late-night snack." A flash of memory surfaced in Sarah's mind. She had been working late trying to finalize the presentation. She vaguely remembered grabbing a bag of chips from the vending machine. her mind preoccupied with deadlines and data points. In her exhaustion, she must have placed the file on top of the machine and completely forgotten about it. She couldn't believe it. The file wasn't lost, just misplaced in the most unexpected way. "Oh my goodness," Sarah exclaimed, her voice a mixture of relief and sheer joy. "That's it! I can't believe it was there all along. Thank you so much. You have no idea." She could barely contain her excitement as she hung up the phone and turned to Ben and Emily, who were watching her with a mixture of anticipation and amusement. "You guys, you'll never guess where they found the file." She quickly relayed the story, and the break room erupted in laughter and congratulations. The tension that had been gripping them for the past few hours evaporated, replaced by a wave of relief and gratitude. But there was no time to celebrate just yet. The clock was still ticking, and Sarah had a presentation to deliver. She grabbed her file and raced back to her desk, a renewed sense of purpose and a smile of triumph on her face. Sarah fairly flew back to her desk, the recovered file clutched tightly in her hand like a prized possession. She had spent the last 20 minutes frantically searching every nook and cranny of the office, her heart pounding with each passing second. The file contained crucial data for the upcoming meeting, and its absence had thrown her into a state of panic. She had checked the conference room, the break room, and even the supply closet, all to no avail. Finally, she had found it tucked away in a corner of the copy room, almost as if it had been hiding from her on purpose. She could feel the adrenaline still pumping through her veins, a mixture of relief and renewed determination. Her mind raced as she tried to recall the key points she needed to present. The stakes were high, and she knew that this meeting could make or break the project she had been working on for months. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart, and reminded herself that she had prepared for this moment. All she needed to do now was focus and deliver. She had lost precious time in the search for the missing file, and now every second counted. The clock on the wall seemed to tick louder with each passing moment, a constant reminder of the urgency of the situation. She glanced at her watch, noting that she had less than 5 minutes before the meeting was scheduled to start. Her desk was a mess, papers scattered everywhere, and she quickly began to organize them, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. She couldn't afford any more delays. The meeting was scheduled to start in just a few minutes, and she still needed to gather her thoughts and do a quick run-through of her presentation. She opened her laptop and quickly navigated to her presentation file, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She reviewed her slides, making sure that everything was in order and that she hadn't missed any important details. She knew that her colleagues were counting on her to deliver a flawless presentation, and she was determined not to let them down. But as she opened the file and her eyes fell upon the familiar words and charts, a sense of calm washed over her. The data was all there, just as she had left it, and she felt a wave of relief. She had spent countless hours compiling this information, and she knew it inside and out. The chaos of the morning began to fade away, replaced by a quiet confidence. She took a moment to savor the feeling, knowing that she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. It was as if the chaos of the morning had never happened. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, her mind clear and focused. She knew that she had the skills and knowledge to succeed, and she was determined to prove it. She took another deep breath, feeling the last remnants of tension leave her body, and allowed herself a small smile. She was ready. She quickly skimmed through the pages, her mind sharply focused on the key points she wanted to emphasize. She highlighted the most important data, making mental notes of the points she wanted to drive home. She knew that her audience would have questions, and she was prepared to answer them with confidence. She had anticipated their concerns and had prepared responses for each one. She felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing that she was well prepared and ready to tackle any challenges that came her way. She knew this material inside and out, and the missing file debacle, though stressful, had only served to solidify her grasp of the information. She felt a renewed sense of determination, knowing that she had overcome the morning's challenges and was now ready to face the meeting head-on. She took one last look at her notes, feeling a sense of pride in her work. She knew that she was ready to deliver a stellar presentation, and she was confident that her hard work would pay off. With a final deep breath, she stood up, ready to face the day. When the time came for Sarah's presentation, she entered the meeting room with her head held high, a confident smile on her face. She had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, meticulously going over every detail of her presentation. The stakes were high, and she knew that this was her opportunity to shine and make a lasting impression on her colleagues and senior management. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and nerves, but she was determined to give it her all. Gone was the frantic, worried colleague who had been searching high and low for her missing file just an hour earlier. The morning had been a whirlwind of emotions, with Sarah frantically tearing through her desk and office, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. She had feared that all her hard work would be for nothing if she couldn't find that crucial document. But now, standing in front of the room, she had managed to push those fears aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. She set up her laptop with the ease of someone who had done this 100 times before, her movements calm and measured. Each click and keystroke was deliberate, a testament to her preparation and experience. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times, visualizing every step and anticipating any potential hiccups. As the screen lit up and her presentation slides appeared, she took a deep breath, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. This was her moment to shine. The room was filled with her colleagues and senior management, all eyes on her as she began to speak. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and Sarah could feel the weight of their expectations. She knew that her performance today could have a significant impact on her career, and she was determined to make every word count. As she looked around the room, she saw familiar faces, some offering encouraging smiles, others watching intently, eager to see what she had to offer. And as she spoke, the words flowed effortlessly. Each sentence was carefully crafted, each point meticulously planned. She had spent hours refining her message, ensuring that it was clear, concise, and compelling. Her voice was steady and confident, carrying the weight of her expertise and passion. She had a natural ability to connect with her audience, drawing them in with her engaging delivery and genuine enthusiasm. She presented the information with passion and conviction, her voice clear and engaging, her body language reflecting her deep knowledge and enthusiasm for the project. The room was rapt, her gestures were purposeful, emphasizing key points and adding emphasis to her words. She moved with a grace and confidence that commanded attention, her eyes meeting those of her audience, creating a sense of connection and trust. It was clear that she believed in what she was saying, and her conviction was contagious. Her colleagues, aware of the morning's drama, were even more impressed by her composure and professionalism. They had seen her at her most vulnerable, and now they were witnessing her at her best. It was a testament to her resilience and determination, qualities that they admired and respected. As they listened to her presentation, they couldn't help but be inspired by her story, a reminder that setbacks are just opportunities in disguise. She hadn't let a little setback derail her, and her resilience was evident in every word she spoke. Her ability to stay focused and composed under pressure was a testament to her strength and character. As she wrapped up her presentation, the room erupted in applause, a clear indication that she had succeeded in making a lasting impression. Sarah had not only triumphed over her morning's challenges, but had also proven to herself and others that she was capable of greatness. This was just the beginning of her journey, and she was ready to take on whatever came next with the same determination and confidence that had brought her this far. As Sarah wrapped up her presentation, the room erupted in applause. She had nailed it, delivering a compelling and informative presentation that exceeded everyone's expectations. She smiled, genuinely touched by their support, but more than the applause, it was the looks of admiration and pride on her colleagues' faces that truly warmed her heart. Later, as the meeting room emptied, Sarah made a beeline for Ben and Emily. "Thank you," she whispered, pulling them into a group hug. "I couldn't have done it without you guys. You were amazing." They laughed, relieved and exhilarated. The missing file fiasco had been a close call, but it had also been a reminder of the importance of teamwork, friendship, and the power of a little perspective. And as they walked back to their desks, side by side, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you in another video for another story.